On the farm, on the ranch, with our families and for the future, women have always been the heart of the home and the land. And today, we dive into how these protect hers lead charge in keeping everyone safe. Good evening, I'm Kirby Schnorr, and welcome to the first segment of this Protect Her special, where we are gathering around the table to talk about such an important topic, safety on the farm and ranch. Women have always been the heart, the home, and the farm. And today we're diving into how they often lead the charge in keeping their loved ones safe on the farm and ranch. We like to say these women are the Protect Hers, and today I'm here with some of those amazing women. So thank you both for joining me, Carrie Portell and Shonda Vega. I mean, we've got a lot to discuss on the show this evening.
Thanks for having us, Kirby.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dive right into it. Both of you, just briefly tell me a little bit about yourselves and your role out on the ranch.
Yeah, so I'm the primary caretaker of our cow-calf operation in mid-Missouri. And when I'm not farming, I'm traveling the United States as a speaker.
Which we always appreciate those, as we know. Shonda, you're no stranger to this desk, no stranger to these shows, but go ahead, let our viewers know a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. It's so good to be back and always fun to be back in Nashville. So I'm here from Central Ohio. I work at Nationwide and have for about 10 years now. So I'm a sponsor relations account manager. I manage our partnership with Ohio Farm Bureau, which some people don't realize that Ohio Farm Bureau founded Nationwide 100 years ago next year. We have our centennial. So yeah, and you see some pictures up on the screen of young Shonda back in her FFA days. So I grew up in rural Ohio and, joined FFA in high school and became my president of my chapter my senior year. I did not grow up farming. So that was really a great introduction into ag, and that ag is for everybody. And so I feel so fortunate to be able to do what I do at Nationwide now. And then you also saw a picture of my family. We just got back from a cruise. So that was my husband, Jonathan, and my son, Alex.
That's fun. Where did you guys get to go?
We went to the Bahamas.
Oh,
a few
there you
stops
go.
down there. So, and it was actually, I think, warmer in Ohio that week than it was in the Bahamas. So we can all attest to the summer heat.
Yeah, don't you love when that
year.
happens? You kind of get away, escape, and then go on vacation. And vacation sometimes isn't always what you expect. But okay, we're going to get back to the show because we have so much to cover. Carrie, I want to go into it. Your story is such a powerful one, and it's given you a really unique perspective on safety, especially when it comes to life on the road. So, and on the farm, I should say. But would you mind sharing a little bit about your story and kind of something that's taken place in your life?
Yeah, sure. So how all of this started was 14 years ago, I was hit by a drunk driver. Two of my children and I were hit by a drunk driver, and it was a very significant car crash, 4-car pileup. Fatal, and it took me the next 4 years of having just one reconstructive surgery after another to get to a place where I could walk unassisted. So that led into, so what am I going to do now? Because I tried and failed 3 times to go to a normal job, and I thought, well, we have farming, we have cattle farming, and looking at me as a part-time wheelchair user, people were like, I don't understand. Like, why would you choose farming? Because, you have physical challenges. And basically it's because that's what we had. Yeah. And it became a passion of mine. It became a purpose, a way for me to contribute to my family. And then for me personally, I was able to get accomplishments again, through that process.
And before all that, did you have a significant role on the farm?
Very minor. So I had a full-time photography studio that I was working, and self-employment never is 40 hours a week.
Never.
We had 4 young kids, and we had actually, my husband had gotten out of farming for a little bit, and when my car crash happened, we had to sell everything. Just sell it. We kept the farm, but we sold everything on it. And then a couple years after my crash, we got together and we're like, why are we the ones who are having to suffer for somebody else's choice? This is what we want to do, so let's just go for it. And fortunately, we got back into it when cattle prices were very high, so it was a great time, to re-enter the field. But yeah, it took a little bit to get back up there.
Yeah, I'm sure. And Shonda, I know Nationwide has really leaned into safety advocacy. I mean, we've worked on several different initiatives with you guys and been out on a farm and ranch and talking about all those practices. But one program that connects so well with Carrie's story is the Drive the 5. Can you walk us through what that campaign is and kind of the specifics behind it and truly why it matters?
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks to Carrie for being here and sharing her courageous story. So Nationwide started this campaign just a little over a year ago. It is Drive the 5 campaign. I do think we're going to have a graphic up here. Yeah, so you can see we have 5 key principles we're really trying to talk to drivers about to improve driver behavior. And this campaign is so important in rural communities because Nationwide's latest survey showed that less than 1 in 10 people believe that rural roads are dangerous. And we know that that's not true, right? Rural roads see about a third or less of the traffic in the U.S., but 41% of deadly crashes happen on rural roads. So that we know that we really need to shine a light in these rural communities on preparing people to drive more safe and really adhere to these principles. And especially the I in drive is impairment free, which, Carrie can attest to is so very important. So it's a big campaign. We'll have the website on a little bit later so people can find out where to find out more videos and flyers and some educational content for that.
Yeah, and you guys pushing this program and initiative, it's been able for you to connect with some farmers and ranchers in rural America that have obviously been directly affected. I mean, as a company, what does that mean? And especially understanding the value and the importance of having such a significant thing like this.
Yeah, I think Nationwide, we're a protection company. We were founded by farmers, like I said, almost 100 years ago. So if we can make a difference in one life, if we can prevent an injury or a death, that's worth it for our agribusiness team to keep doing these campaigns, whether it's, I know we're gonna get into some other ones like grain bin safety, manure pit safety, ATV safety, and then rural road safety. We're just continually trying to keep our pulse on it, to keep our policyholders and just rural America safe in general.
Yeah. And, Carrie, you've obviously been through so much, and thank you so much for being here to share your story. And I know that's, we got to give a lot of credit, obviously, to Nationwide, you guys partnering together, but being raw, open, and honest, especially with our viewers, and letting them know the real risks and kind of the outcome that happens with all of that. But physically and emotionally, the taxing it's taken on you as a person, but you've turned those experiences into something positive and making people aware. And obviously you've kind of chosen a career maybe that now you're able to get back into, to your roots, like we say. You really live that. So how do you keep safety top of your mind for your family while staying positive and then also advocating for not only safety on rural roads, but advocating for the industry?
It's, so safety has always been our number one concern, especially me, with the car crash. It's definitely brought it to the forefront. And having 4 young kids at that time, we were constantly talking to them about it. And then when it came to the farm, that is my number one concern, obviously, being partially disabled. If I want to continue doing this type of work, I always have to have safety at the forefront of my mind. So I always have to think about how am I going to do things differently than I did before, because I don't have the same body that I used to. So I have to think more creatively, and I can't just do things with my muscles anymore. I have to have special equipment to help me. But protecting everybody else, I kind of becomes the mom's job, I think, the wife's mom. It's just naturally who we are. And same thing. So as a woman, I am naturally weaker, I should say physically weaker, than a man. So I have to think differently anyway. But then you add those disabilities on top of it. And my 3 main concerns are safety. I have to see how many steps that I can take a day. I have to minimize those, and then minimize my energy level. So every single day I have to say, what am I going to use my 1,800 steps for? And then I use the wheelchair for the rest of the time. But as far as our family's concerned, boy, I am always on that megaphone saying, did you do this today? And I'll see this, from my husband. Yes, ma'am. I'll do better. I'll do better. Yeah. But it's, and becoming an advocate, honestly, was just a next step in doing that, because safety is such a huge role. And we hear about all these farm accidents all the time. And they're usually so simple. Like if you just would have put your seatbelt on, or, don't talk and drive. I'm one of those. I can't talk and drive on the tractor ever. You know, if I did that, my rows would be,
that wouldn't work out for us.
Squiggle lines, yeah. But, you know, with social media, it just takes it a step further, that when you start putting it out there and start saying some real things about protection and mental health and all the advocacy that we're doing in agriculture right now, I am so excited to see agriculture influencers out there. Who would have ever thought years ago that people in agriculture would actually be out there, you know, spewing our information and giving the right information to people? But it's an amazing deal for me to be doing right now.
Has there ever been a morning or, you know, even an evening when you're going to sleep where you're like, man, I could have chose maybe an easier path than this after everything that we've been through?
Several times. Yeah. One, because just getting up and talking about what I went through was an enormously raw experience, and I had great difficulty with it the entire first year. I mean, it was blubbering. I mean, it was river of tears type thing. And, you know, trying to get out there, I've been very fortunate that I've had plenty of referrals to get me to the next event. And that's the best type of business marketing that you could possibly get. But you know, that the travel and the going through my story every single time, because I'll go into great detail about it, you know, during the events. There are certain times where, you know, I thought to myself, I could just put this down and slink back and become invisible again. But then what would I get from that? Like, what fulfillment would I get to take that place? And then what about all the people who have come to me and, you know, sent me those private messages or emails or, you know, whispered in my ear after an event? I'm like, oh, I can't give up on those people. I can't do it. Yeah. So I'm sticking for as long as my body will, you know, be able to do it.
Yeah, and I mean, aside from that as well, I mean, I have to ask you, was there a moment too through all of this where you're a little nervous to get back on the road, to be out there driving, and obviously to have your family out on the road, and you know the risk. I mean, you know what things that can happen.
Yeah. That, you know, that's my husband's number one concern with me traveling so much, is we both know it can happen again. I mean, in a second, at the most random time. But we both feel that what I'm doing is more important, you know, to keep doing it. But in the beginning, I couldn't drive for quite a long time. So I had to be carted around everywhere. And it was, during the day wasn't as difficult. It was the nighttime, because that's whenever my car crash happened, and it was the headlights, the bright lights coming towards me. I still have PTSD to this day when certain things happen. You know, like on the way up here, it was raining and there was ambulance lights coming towards me. And I had that moment where my chest did this, and I thought, oh, it's trying to sneak up on me. And luckily, I'm one of those people who can push it down. And, you know, when we get to a stop where I can rest, I can deal with it. But fortunately, I can control that PTSD, but 14 years later, it's still there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a part of your story, right?
Yeah.
And it's a story that I know everyone is so thankful that you're sharing, not only with our viewers at home today, but I mean, across the country when you go and speak, because it's so important for people to hear. And I think, Shauna, that's something I want us to touch on a little more. You're a mom, you're a wife yourself, and so hearing stories like this and knowing that you are in a position to be able to do something about it as a company, as an organization, what does that mean?
It means a lot. And I think it means, you know, sharing stories like Carrie's, and even that point that I think especially young people, they think it can't happen to them. You know, the older you get, the more you experience and realize that you could easily be the next headline or, you know, the next person it happens to. So I think when we have a platform to be able to say, hey, this happened to the person next door to me or my family member or my friend, it's really about story sharing and bringing it to life. And I think, like you mentioned, just having the influencers tell their stories and then backing it up again with campaigns or safety tips or best practices to prevent that from happening from that next person, just to be able to have that platform. And again, if we can prevent one accident or one death, that's, you know, what our goal is.
Yeah, most definitely. And I know also a part of that is, how can viewers get involved or share the Drive the 5? I mean, especially since you guys are pushing this and they want to know, you know, the Drive the 5 and messages, their own communities, how can we get the word and spread the word?
Yeah, so we have a great website. I think they're going to pop up so we can see it online here. It's our agribusiness website, nationwide.com, and right there, agribusiness risk management. And A lot of the things we talk about today, you'll be able to learn more on that website. But when it comes to Drive the 5, we have some great videos and some great flyers. And I think sometimes we think this is for new drivers, but I think a lot of us experienced drivers could use reminders.
Oh, definitely.
And so, you know, while you're showing it with your new driver or those, you know, your kids, you know, pay attention and make sure you're learning a thing or two and being a good role model. You know, you went back to, you know, I'm a mom. It's like, if we can stay off of our phones as much as possible and limit the distractions and, you know, being mindful of that, we're setting a good example as well.
I think that's one of the interesting things too. I mean, you don't want to live in fear, right? You needed to get back out there. You need to get back on the road, and you needed to find a career path that was going to fulfill you, not only for yourself, but for your family. And in doing so, if you would want somebody to know, like, man, through my struggles, I've kind of found strength, what would you tell them?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I think the biggest lessons come from pain, and those are the ones that stick. And you find out really how strong you can be. And I think it surprises a lot of us. Like, we didn't know we could dig down that deep, you know, to say, I'm going to get through this. And I'm going to, like, for me, it was, I'm going to get back to the best version of myself that I can possibly get to, but it took a long time to get there.
Oh, man. Well, such an important and powerful story. So thank you so much for coming on here. And again, everything Nationwide does, we've got more stories to share throughout this program, but we really just appreciate you being here and being vulnerable and open and honest about, you know, the risks there are, but at the end of the day, there can be reward with it. And so just important for people to know, women lead with love and intention. Safety becomes second nature. Up next, we'll talk about how these same values extend to the farm itself, because protecting our land and our people go hand in hand. Welcome back to this Protect Her special. I'm Kirby Schnorr, and in this segment, we're shifting from the home to the heart of the operation, the farm and ranch. From grain bins to livestock to equipment, women are often the ones making sure everyone gets home safely, and at the end of the day, they're with their family. I'm here not only with Carrie, who we just got to speak with, so thank you so much again for sharing your story, but Zoe, who, you know, Zoe, I feel like I know you because of social media. I mean, your presence out there on social media just, I know maybe not always your focus is educating your viewers, but you are definitely doing that. But just sharing the agriculture industry and what it's all about, especially a day in the life of what you live, what you do, and how you do it. So being a part of this new generation of farmers who are using social media to connect and educate, let's go into that. And how do you use your platform to just talk about safety measures that need to be taken on farms and ranches?
Yeah, I know this might come as a shock to you, but a lot of farmers don't like to be told what to do, or that you should be doing something differently. So I like to just make sure that I am doing the right things in my videos. You know, if I'm going to be going in a grain bin, I have a mask on. If I'm around noisy equipment, I have that hearing protection on, and just kind of just showing that I'm always trying to do my best to be safe around the farm.
Yeah, and I know we have a video, but before we play that video, I actually skipped over because I feel like I know you. We got to record a podcast together, but we have some pictures of you out on the farm. And so for the viewers who might not be on social media or might not, you know, have glanced at your page before, tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what you do out on the farm.
Yes, so I am an 8th generation farmer. My dad retired 4 years ago, and I bought him out of Kent Family Farms. So I own and operate our farm. We grow corn and soybeans, and content is what I like to say. But it's just a great life, and I get to share it with the people online now too.
Yeah, and I think that's so special. And now I want to kick it to this video, and it's a video just about how we champion rider safety. So let's take a look. I'm Kirby Schnorr from FarmHER, and we're teaming up with Nationwide to promote ATV and UTV safety. Always wear a helmet and protective gear. Obey passenger and age limits. Avoid paved roads and never drive under the influence. Use common sense and match the job with the right vehicle. As women in agriculture, we set the example. So talk to your families about responsible riding. Let's champion ATV safety together. Go to nationwide.com/ATV safety to learn more. Yeah, I had the chance to go shoot some of those videos that we were talking about earlier, and it's just interesting. There's a lot of things. I grew up on a farm, but I don't live on one now, and some of the practices I'm like, ooh, this would have been smart to implement back in the day. I mean, just those things, and we just, you know, we're fortunate not to have a lot of those crazy accidents, and but looking back now, I'm like, wow, And so my older sister, she has children, and I'm like, you're definitely going to be taking these measures, just so you know. But now going back to you, Carrie, everything you've been through and going back to the farm, can we talk a little bit more about that and how you've had to maybe adjust or put procedures in place to make sure everyone is safe? What does that look like?
Yes, so for myself, I had to change absolutely everything. And I struggled really hard in the beginning with that. I was very frustrated because I was thinking with my old body and not my new body. So another thing that farmers are not good about is asking for help, right? So I had to reach out and ask for some help. And there have been 2 nonprofit organizations that have been my godsend, and that's AgriAbility and AgriSafe. So both of them have taught me how to be safer on the farm, and also getting specialized equipment that helps me work safe on the farm, because I'm going to do this. And I had decided I'm going to do this. I just have to figure out a safe and efficient way how to do it. And I needed help.
Yeah. And I think it's funny because we have talked about this, asking for help. And during break, we were just talking about, you being an 8th generation farmer, and that's very impressive. It doesn't happen as much as we'd like to anymore these days, but that comes with a set of challenges, and a part of those challenges are safety measures. So do you think there's an issue out there that needs to be addressed or isn't talked about enough? That is a safety measure the farmers and ranchers should be talking about more and taking?
I wouldn't say specifically one thing, but I think, we know what we should be doing in a grain bin. We know that there should be someone watching us. We know when we go outside, we should always be putting that SPF on. And if you can see my farmer stand, I forgot that today. But you can do it right 99% of the time. It's that one time that you think, oh, I'm just going to rush and get this done really quick, and that's when something bad can happen. So just every day, taking all the proper precautions we need to.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I actually did a grain bin safety thing. I should say it was really neat. It was a whole, this young girl in FFA anyway, she put it together, and we did it with Nationwide, and I learned so much about that. And it's really interesting, so many families that have been affected by just not taking those safety measures, or just, hey, I think I can get out there and I can do this. And you can't. And it's all it takes is one time. And I think even for you, I don't mean to go back to this, Carrie, but all it took is for that driver to decide one time, I drank, I think will be okay to drive.
Yeah.
It's life-changing.
Yeah. And that's the thought process too. It's not that far of a drive home, but look what happened. But it's as far as safety measures as well, like when you say, 99% of the time we do it, that happened to me. 99% of the time I followed my own rules, and I found myself under a first-time caver one time, and I didn't know if I was getting out. And I was like, Carrie, why did you do that? But it's that one time you think it's going to be okay, and then it's not. And boy, that's a hard lesson to learn.
Yeah, it really is. And this question's kind of for both of you. So Zoe can answer first, and then Carrie. But since you've taken over the farm, and you've obviously been back on the farm and leading the operations, I just would love to hear, have there been moments that, stick out to you, just like you're mentioning, where you want to stand your ground on safety decisions, but maybe somebody else has another opinion on that, or you wish you would have asked for help or another opinion from somebody when it comes to safety measures? And what does that look like? How did that go?
So for me, when my dad retired, he got rehired back on, and he was going to, just help out here and there. And then we joke around that he got fired because he has a genetic condition, and he's kind of lost his ability to do things here and there. Sorry.
Yeah.
But, it was us as a team deciding, just a second. I would hate for something bad to happen to him. And yes, it's annoying that he can't go out and do this or that. And one thing that we've really implemented is that he can't be outside before moving equipment, because this isn't good.
It just sneaks up on you. It does, yeah.
And,
one thing that we've implemented is that he can't be around the equipment when we're moving it, because if he were to fall over, someone could run him over, and you hear those horrible stories all the time.
You really do. You do hear those stories. And you guys taking the measures that you're taking to protect your dad, though, that's also hard on him. He wants to be out there. We all know, and I hate to say this, but I'm going to say it, farmers and ranchers, they don't really retire. They kind of just die working, right? It's the truth. It's the reality of the situation, because that is their livelihood, but it's also their passion. And so you guys wanting to just protect your dad because you love him, but it's hard That's a hard thing to fight with family like that on a situation.
But it's definitely worth, him being a little bit bored in the office. Just sit down, relax a little bit.
Get in the office, Dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, again, having those tough discussions, I would say, I know you and your dad are close, but has that made you look at safety issues then on your farm a little differently?
Definitely. And also, growing up, my mom worked at Nationwide most of her career, actually. So this has just been a really fun partnership talking about these things because, she's the person, she's seeing those bad accidents all the time and just reminding us that we need to be safe. And so really, as a whole, we're all just kind of keeping that safety in mind.
Okay, but that's not the case for most farmers and ranchers, right? That's why we're doing this. This is why we have Protect Her.
And we're certainly not perfect. There are definitely times when I'm in a rush, so.
Yeah, and that's another, I think, thing to talk about a little bit is being in a rush, right? When people get in a rush out on a farm or ranch and it's like, let me run out and do this one thing before we head in for dinner. I mean, what are your thoughts being back on the farm now? And again, I know you already talked about this, but a little bit just having to go the extra mile and give the extra thought for those safety measures.
It's that extra thought is essential. So it's kind of funny. In my relationship with my husband, I'm actually Zoe's dad.
Oh.
So my body is the age of a 76-year-old. That's what my surgeon told me. So for me, I'm having to think about movement and arthritis. And there have been days where either my pain was so bad that I couldn't focus or I just mentally wasn't where I needed to be. That makes for unsafe days on the farm. And there have been a couple times where things started going wrong. And, women go through this, they go through anger first and then they go into tears. And I got to that point and I thought, you know what? It's going to be much safer for everyone if I call it a day today. I go check my attitude for the next 24 hours, come back and start over tomorrow. Because if my focus is not where it needs to be, that's when I'm going to get hurt. And I say the same thing to my husband. I'm like, I know you have to do this very, very quickly, but you have to go out and you have to be focused when you're doing it with it because one time, boy, you're going to get caught in that PTO shaft or, something along those lines. But your focus has to be there. Otherwise, in a split second, everything changes.
Yeah. Both of you being content creators in a sense, and then also going out and speaking, you both go to multiple places and speak to different individuals, different groups, organizations, companies, you name it, sharing your stories and just about your lives. What have you gained individually from those experiences of what you're being able to share and give to people from your testimonies?
Oh, I love it. What I have to talk about is very difficult and it really raises a lot of emotions with the people in the audience. But when they have the courage to either contact me after the conference or come up after the conference and say, this is what you did for me, by being vulnerable, by sharing those details that are really hard to share, I think, oh my gosh, this was so worth it, me coming and just, spilling my emotions all over the place. It was just, and like I think you said earlier, one person is all it takes, to save. Yeah. It's pretty amazing feeling to come home with. And I don't know how you can not enjoy it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's very much we all have very different operations. Everyone's unique, but we all have kind of those same stories and we deal with those same issues and just realizing that we're all kind of in that same boat.
I want you to go on that subject a little bit more, Zoe, and just talk about the content that you create and the stories that you share with your viewers. And so if somebody's been following you for a long time or if you get someone new, what does that mean? Because sometimes there's got to be a little bit of a struggle for having to hold this position of advocating for the industry, shedding agriculture in a great light, obviously making sure people understand what the industry is about, but not taking maybe, if people don't understand it, to the best degree, not taking it personal. What's that like?
Mm-hmm. I am definitely not an expert, and I definitely have tons of room for improvement on myself. But just learning from people, even in the comments, it's like, hey, why aren't you wearing gloves? Hey, why did you have to pick up that rock? And, having other people check me too is really great.
Yeah. I think that's an interesting thing too, because Social media, as we know, is fascinating, and this generation has done a good job of really kind of pulling people in the industry together to advocate for it. So if we're going to bring it back to safety measures, has there ever been a time where people have reached out to you guys and told you about a story? And I know it probably has happened, you shared that at conferences, but on social media, have they shared with you, hey, I'm so glad you shared this and this safety precaution to take on the farm or ranch, because I wasn't even thinking about that?
Yeah, for sure. For me, a lot of people, I know you were talking about earlier about how like women naturally aren't that strong. And I always take that as not as strong. I just like take that as a place to be like, no, I'm going to prove my strength, you know? And then, you know, I couldn't get this PTO hooked up one time. And then people were like, well, you can do it easier and more efficiently if you use, you know, this technique. And it was like, oh, I'm going to save my back. I'm going to do it a lot faster. And, you know, and realizing that I don't know everything and that other people can teach me tips and tricks just is really nice.
This is why she's going to succeed.
I love that. I love that. Well, I still have a few more minutes with you ladies, and I think just both of you sitting up here and being able to talk about the industry and shed light on why it is important to take the extra mile and the extra thought. Is there any lasting things that you would want people to know? Again, there's so many things to know about our industry, but safety being of utmost importance. What do you want them to take away from this show this evening?
I think, you know, farming is very difficult in general. And then if you have an injury or you have a family member who has an injury or a mental health illness or something like that, that is compounded on top of each other. And I hear a lot about, you know, just the stress of living the farm life. And for me, I'm going to repeat something that my husband used to tell me, because he was my best coach during my 4 years of recovery. And when I was in my down moments and I knew how to get myself back up, but I just couldn't quite get there, he would always say to me, Carrie, remember, this is just a moment in time. Like, it will pass, things will get better. And I tell people, I'm like, it may not turn out exactly the way that you want it to. You know, I wanted to walk full time, and it's just not in the cards for me. But it is just a moment in time, and don't panic in that moment and do something foolish or unsafe. You know, keep your head on, and things will get better.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, I think as farmers, you know, we are just built to be tough, and you have to be strong and resilient. And sometimes the strongest thing that you can do is ask for help, ask for a better way to do something. And just keeping yourself safe makes us more efficient. We can get more done if we're not hung up on an injury.
Well, and going off of that, Zoe, again, we got to speak prior to all of this. I just think in the younger generation coming into this industry or coming back to the farm and ranch, and practices changing and not always doing something maybe the old way was done, especially for you, 8 generations on the same, you know, area of land. Why do you feel this need to really step up and be a voice for agriculture and for this generation that is coming back to agriculture? Yeah,
I just think that it's really important that we're safe. I think also with social media, there's all these challenges, and you do these cool things when you're in your equipment, and it's like, is it worth taking a 30-second video to maybe get some likes and views if you're going to run your tractor into a ditch or have an accident? You know, it's just like, where are we prioritizing our time and our efforts?
Yeah, and I actually want to ask you this. You mentioned your mom working for Nationwide, so I love kind of like the relationship that you have with the farm and then Nationwide. Knowing now that there's a company like that that obviously has already touched your family, you know, from your mom's participation with Nationwide, but what does that mean for you guys as farmers and ranchers? And I want you both to talk about this, for them to recognize and reach out to you guys and ask you guys to be a part of this movement and initiative and this educational piece.
It means a lot. Farming can feel very isolating. Sometimes, you know, I'm just alone in my tractor all day with, you know, my thoughts, and it's really nice to know there's all these organizations that want to keep us safe and want to help us. And like you said, with the different organizations that can help you retrofit things to make it easier for you, it's really nice to know there's so much support out there from other people.
Yeah, what do you have to say for that, Karen?
Yeah, I love the partnership. And when Nationwide or FarmHER calls me and says, hey, what do you think about this? Like, man, they're still calling me. They must think I'm doing something right, you know? So it's just one more way for us to get out on a bigger platform and say, you know, you can do this. Yeah, you might have some challenges, but let us help you find a way to do it. And I think we both probably get a thrill out of that, just being able to help others.
Well, I know you're probably helping many people at home right now by just, again, sharing your stories, but shedding light on the importance of being safe out on the farm. So as a partner, Nationwide leads with caring and courage. As a protection and safety company, they have resources available for everyone, not just their customers. Every step counts, and it's a program designed to elevate safety standards across the ag, food, and fuel industries, helping employers identify and close potential gaps in their worker safety plans. We all know safety isn't just about rules, it's about relationships. And when people and businesses lead with care and courage, they create a ripple effect that protects everyone on the farm and ranch. Again, thank you so much, ladies. And I just really appreciate you both being yourselves, sharing your story. And we have more on this Nationwide Protect Her initiative, so stay right with us. Welcome back to this Protect Her special. I'm Karish Noor, and as we wrap up, we're looking ahead to the next generation, to the legacy we leave, and to the future of farming. Women have always been the keepers of tradition, and now they're also the architects of what's next. So let's get right back into it. And joining me now is Nationwide Sponsor Relations Account Executive Shonda Vega and Sheldon McKinney, Executive Director of Kentucky FFA Foundation. Shonda, you first joined us in the first segment, talking all things Protect Her. And Sheldon, thank you so much for being with us here and joining us for this segment. Before we get into your role and what you do with Kentucky FFA Foundation, tell our viewers a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I've been the executive director of the FFA Foundation for 13 years. And before that, I was a high school agriculture teacher. I'm married to a high school agriculture teacher. I grew up with my grandparents all farmed. My parents didn't, but I loved agriculture. Found a career path in that always. My husband and I now have a small cow-calf operation back in my hometown in eastern Kentucky. And I get to help advance agriculture education all across Kentucky.
I know we want to talk more about the Kentucky FFA Foundation and just your role with that and going into safety measures. But I got to ask you, what's that like, your parents not really being in agriculture, but being able to come back to agriculture and raise the next generation and shape young minds in this industry?
Yeah. My parents found careers off of the farm, but I did always grow up, I had grandparents that dairied. Everyone raised tobacco in Kentucky. And so I think that it instilled that work ethic and that love. It is a blessing that we get to raise our children around agriculture and being a part of that too. My husband and I both wanted, that was our goal, to be able to do that. And so we're blessed to get to.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, switching gears then, let's talk about some of the safety concerns that you might have when it comes to your students or your family, or even just as an ag leader, or the ag leaders, I should say, in general. Kind of the measures that you guys, or they take, procedures that you guys put in place. Talk about that a little more.
Sure. I get to work with the Kentucky Department of Agriculture, and they have a huge initiative around safety called Raising Hope in Kentucky. It's been so successful over many years, but I think what they do that is really unique and has changed over time is that they don't just talk about equipment safety or ATV safety, animal handling. It's so much more comprehensive now. And they talk about sun protection and hearing protection, and right now tick awareness and safety around ticks. We talk about mental health around farmers and people in rural America so much. And so I think that is how the conversation has changed over time, is that it's so much more than how do you protect yourself around a PTO shaft, but instead this whole lifestyle. You need a lot of safety parameters to be able to do it for a long time successfully and healthy.
Yeah, I mean, even just mentioning the sunscreen, that's something that we are not always thinking of, especially if you're out there working on the farm. So you have such a unique perspective on all of this, not just professionally, but personally. And so with your family, your own operation, what are some of the things that keep you continuously thinking about safety? And as the ag world continues to evolve, and when you go back into the professional landscape, then how do you implement those things that you're just thinking about at home on the farm?
What inspires a lot of things that I'm thinking about is really our students that I get to see and come in contact with. Last year, Through the Department of Agriculture, they facilitated over $120,000 in farm safety grants called Raising Hope grants to 45 agriculture programs in Kentucky. So 45 FFA chapters from the east to the west all over had to come up with their own farm safety programs and how to address that locally. And so just getting to see what those students are doing, led by their agriculture teacher, and the things that they're talking about. We had a lot of farmer appreciation dinners where people come and say, we so appreciate your work, and also we know that it's taxing. Here are some things to think about. Here's some resources if you need some mental health support. We had chapters who came up with farm safety kits that they handed out to farmers that had hearing protection and sunscreen and a first aid kit and maybe even a tourniquet kit, and say, hey, put this in your tractor. I hope you never need this, but if it's here, we've provided it. It's been inspiring to see young people lead the charge and learn about safety in the process, be active leaders in their community and engaged. And when you are teaching someone something, it is embedded with you for forever. You're always going to remember that more than just being told. So I think that giving our students that opportunity to lead in this space is creating a culture of safety.
Yeah, most definitely. And Shonda, when you hear stories like this and know just kind of the work that she's doing and the work that you guys are doing, you get to spend a lot of time with different youth and ag programs. What are you seeing how this next generation is kind of stepping into this leadership role, handling these measures to be safer out on the farm, I should say safer out on the farm and ranch, and just really wanting to step up to make sure that they could have a place in this, industry and just be more mindful about it.
Yeah, I think the youth are incredibly smart. I think they're very intelligent. I'm sure you see that as well. And I love to hear they're leading with such kindness as well and giving back in their community. But they're so intelligent. They have grown up with technology and information at their fingertips, and they know how to use it. I think we heard a lot about Zoe too. It's just instant feedback of how you're doing, or people questioning you and questioning your practices, and being able to give each other feedback in real time. And if you don't know something or a certain precaution to take, they can look it up right away. They can watch a video on farm safety. They can look up any of the nationwide campaigns that we're talking about, or anything they hear through FFA or 4-H. It's at their fingertips. And I just really think you see that woven into their leadership is that they know that they have access to it and they know how to utilize it, and really just build it into their daily practices to make their family and farms, much safer.
Some people, they might sit back and say, oh, these young individuals, though, they're, say, high school aged, they don't really need to implement this on the farm or the ranch right now. What would either one of you say to that if someone was to combat with that message?
That's just unfortunately not true. I know, when I was in high school, my high school experience was actually shaped by several car accidents of classmates of mine that were killed. I know many young people who've been hurt in farming accidents, ATV accidents. My husband had a student pass away in an ATV accident earlier this year. Accidents can happen, and when you're young and you feel invincible, it's just unfortunately not true. And so it's so important to always talk about safety, to taking those great precautions, because it can happen in 1 second. Something you never thought would happen can happen in 1 second. So it really is, I have my mom in my ear all the time thinking, like, put your seatbelt on, go slow, put your phone down. Everyone needs that voice in their head. And so women, we should speak up and share that with others.
And Shonda, as nationwide, you guys really do take the extra step to make sure that these procedures are put in place for the farmers, for the ranchers, for your families. But you just want to raise awareness. Can you speak to that a little more?
Yeah, I think it's raising awareness. And I think, it's working with people like Zoe who have, she's an influencer and people trust her and admire her. So how can we leverage people like that to share our message and our campaign that might have a further reach and a really good brand, out in the community. So, I just think for nationwide, again, as we're just a protection company, how can we, leverage also that education and technology that can be at the fingertips through different mediums to try and make a difference.
And we always say they don't know what they don't know, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes people just aren't aware of certain practices that they need to be implementing out on the farm and ranch. I want to take it back a little bit though to talk about ag teachers. This is we're just going to, shift over, to a different lane, but they're so important for the future generation of agriculture, farming, ranching, you name it, whether they go back into the farm or the ranch, or if they go into a different sector of an industry and they lead, but with agriculture in the background. Talk about that a little more, and just the importance of an ag teacher, and really they make an impact on these young people.
Oh, so much. I would love to talk about that. Teaching is the only career that really shapes all other careers. It inspires everyone else. And so agriculture teachers have the capacity, if they teach a whole career, think about the thousands of students that they've gotten to inspire to come back to the farm, to be doctors, lawyers, work in ag business, work in ag media. There's so many things that I didn't even know existed before I became a member of my FFA chapter and was influenced by great agriculture teachers. And so our teachers are leaders. And I think that if we teach our teachers about safety and what they can do to impact their community, what they should be talking to students about, they can reach so many more people. They're just so influential. Kentucky, we are so proud to be a part of the Golden Owl program with nationwide insurance. This was the first year that we completed that. But teachers work so hard, and agriculture teachers work harder than most because they wear so many hats. They are coaches, they are business consultants and helping students make farming decisions. They're travel agents coordinating, all sorts of FFA trips and experiences for students while they teach a full load in the classroom every day. And then many manage farms and families on their own. And so anytime that we can recognize teachers to say, you are growing the next generation of leaders. We don't have a future of agriculture without inspiring that next generation to come back to the farm and to work in our industry. They're pivotal, and we need them more. And we're so appreciative of Nationwide for recognizing them and to helping us find ways to celebrate them.
I will say, being at the National FFA Convention and just getting to interview some of them that have received the Golden Owl, I mean, they lit up and they were just so appreciative of being recognized. And they don't expect it, they don't even need it, but it just made them feel so good. And I'm like, you have no idea the work you are doing for the next generation and beyond. But as a company, that's got to feel good.
It's one of the favorite things about my job is getting to work with the Golden Owl Award. And Sheldon completed her first year with the program, and it was so wonderful to work with. We also engaged Marilyn this past year, and we got a really nice thank you note from the winner. She sent it into our office not long ago. I think we have a picture of that if we want to put it up.
Yeah.
And like you said, the teachers, Sheldon, they're just so grateful to be recognized. They're not doing it for the recognition, but I think it feels good, right? When you know that all the time and effort and energy and money and weekends and nights that you spend on this, that people are appreciating it. It just means a lot. And I'll give a little plug for goldenowlaward.com. That's where you can go on and learn more about the program. We will be doing it in 15 states in the U.S. this year. And nominations kick off usually around September 1st. It varies with different states, but you can learn about the states that are involved, how to nominate your favorite ag teacher, and that's at goldenowlaward.com.
I think that's so important too for people to recognize, to get on that and goldenowlaward.com and submit their names, recognize them, because again, they're not looking for the recognition, but they are doing such a tremendous job and such an extensive job. I feel like they're not only ag teachers, they're not only educating, they have families, some of them have families of their own, but some of these ag teachers, leaders, they take on such a role of being another parent for some of these children. And they really are so influential on how some of these kids are going to go out into the next season of life and either, succeed or not succeed. What do you have to say about that?
Oh, it's just so true. It's an honor to get to work with so many great teachers. We honored a Golden Owl Award winner this year who retired from North Carolina, then came and has taught many more years in Kentucky and is still just doing a wonderful job. And when we put together the surprise announcement and said, invite family, friends, our secret people who help put together our surprise announcements, He had students drive up from North Carolina who he was their teacher over 40 years ago to be there for his recognition, because now that I get to work with donors a lot too, who are reflecting on their life, they're in a position to give, and so many of them go, I don't know what would have happened if I had not been an FFA or had an ag teacher who helped call out my talent, show me what was available, maybe helped me find the next steps to how do I get back on the farm, how do I apply for a scholarship. Agriculture teachers open so many doors for students, and we're blessed to have them, and it's wonderful to recognize them in any way.
Yeah, the impressions that they leave on so many people for years and years and years.
And non-ag kids.
Yeah, and non-ag,
You know, that was me, a non-farm kid, that they just open their arms and they show you the different leadership opportunities that are available maybe outside of a, certain like animal project, for example. They're pretty cool.
Yeah,
and your husband, I mean, you see it firsthand too. He's been teaching, 18 years?
18 years,
Wow.
yeah.
And I know he has to be accessible, even throughout the summer. This is their time off, and he's very involved all summer.
Yeah, and there's so many different routes that these young kids can take, even outside of livestock or being on a farm or ranch. I mean, ag mechanics, they just go on. They can just do public speaking, they just grow as individuals so much, but that's all attributed to having these individuals, these adults who really just leave such an impression on them. So important. I want to ask you, though, both of you as women, and I know we're going to be wrapping up our time, though, but Sheldon, as someone who has seen just the impact women have on ag education, so nothing to take away from your husband, obviously, but why do you think it's so important that they take these measures, and how are they just shaping the culture of safety awareness and safety in the future of our industry?
Sure. I think women are natural caretakers, and maybe more likely to call out something that you see, like, hey, I see you're struggling with this, or do you have on sunscreen? Are you wearing your helmet? Are you doing all of these things? And I think that's important. I think it's important to feel comfortable in speaking up for people's best interest, you know, because you could save a life when we're talking about the safety initiatives. You absolutely could.
Yeah, and I think that's why it was so important for you guys to kind of roll out these initiatives and use different platforms to project them and let people know and bring awareness, because Protect Her, there's just so many different things that people could be made aware of, but you guys have really used female voices. Why do you think that's so important?
I think we're good storytellers. I think we're vulnerable, and I think that we know through storytelling, maybe again we can prevent something else from happening, or have someone learn something through, something that's happened to you or somebody else. And I know as I go out and talk to youth, even if they don't want to necessarily listen to me, I can bring along a video that, an influencer did on ATV safety that, that teen can relate to a little bit more than, this mom figure something like, wear your helmet. So I think we're those connectors, and we're those storytellers, and we try to meet people where they're at and bring those stories to them, to just hopefully make them reflect in that time and, be able to take a few more precautions.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's always the important thing. I know we've had such a great show just getting to know the different individuals that have been a part of this and just supporting the initiative that you guys have put forward. I guess for you, Sheldon, though, if anyone's at home watching this, what's one safety lesson that you would just hope every young farmer would take away from hearing what you guys have to say, or their parents relaying the message to them? What would you want them to know?
I think people need to be conscious about it's our job to take care of each other, especially on the farm and in rural areas and your neighbors down the road. We have to rely on each other sometimes and all the time. And it's okay to speak up if you see somebody struggling, if you see somebody with their mental health, if you see somebody doing something that's not safe and you know that they could get hurt. It kind of feels sometimes scary to go, hey, there's a better way, but you really might save them by being a vocal advocate and caring about the people around you. And so I would think that we all have a responsibility to take care of each other.
Yeah, very well said. What about you?
So I think, a story that has stuck with me, I've been talking to a lot of kids from elementary to high school about ATV, UTV safety, and I was talking to some third graders this spring, and the stories they were telling me as 10-year-olds of things they've experienced, already at such a young age, whether they were in an accident, their family was in an accident, or someone was killed, to be at such a young age and already be, really affected by these machines that can be so fun and so useful, but that you have to be careful. So one thing I would definitely have people take away is to have your kids wear a helmet. I had a young girl tell me that she flew off her four-wheeler in an accident and her helmet cracked. And again, being able to relay this to other kids, what would that have been if she didn't have her helmet on? That would have been her head. You know, like how important it is just for these, again, it takes, you know, sometimes you're rushing and I need to run down the driveway, but you know, if you could just put that helmet on, I think that's one of the biggest safety tips that I would leave with the audience.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, again, thank you guys so much for joining us here today. Shonda, Sheldon, Protect Her, but Zoe, Kent, and Carrie, they were just so great to be so vulnerable, share their stories, and for you to sit up here, share your story, and just advocate for the future generations that are going to be a part of this industry for many years to come. So thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it.
So good seeing you.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Well, again, women protect their families and they protect the future of farming. Well, we're about out of time, which we are. So thank you so much for all joining us and for this special conversation with these protectors. We hope we leave you inspired, empowered, and just like Nationwide, ready to protect what's next for your family and farm operation. That's all the time we have today. So thank you so much for joining us for Protect Her. We'll see you next time.